Welcome to the ParentNet podcast by Focus on the Family Singapore. In each episode, we'll be speaking with everyday parents and practitioners as they share with us gems from their parenthood journey. Keep tuning in to learn with us as we figure it out together.
Hello and welcome to the ParentNet podcast. My name is June and I'm your host for this episode. Single parents juggle an incredible load emotionally, financially, and just so much more. In this episode, we shine a light on the real and lived experience of single parenthood through the lens of our guest, Haze Feng. Haze will be sharing about her journey as a single mom, what the path has looked like for her with all its highs and lows. So Haze, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Hi everyone. Hi June. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Haze and I am a single mom to an amazing young man now. And his name is Azon. My boy right now is 12 years old.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I was wondering if we could start by having you share a little bit about what your journey as a single mom has been like. Maybe you can bring us through the highs and lows.
Actually, I would use a roller coaster ride to describe the journey. I feel that there are different phases to the journey and the highs and lows are very volatile. So for me, it officially started in 2017 when I found out my then husband was having an affair. Long story short, I kind of confronted him. I found out about it and subsequently he walked out of our family and left Azon in my care. During that period of time when he walked out, he actually went radio silence for close to 10 months. I couldn't get him and Azon was in my care and actually I wasn't working. So financially, I wasn't able to care for Azon too. I would say that it was a very trying period during those 10 months and Azon was only 4 years old. Recalling, I would say that I was very lost. All of a sudden, I become a single parent, right? And I was very lost and I did not know what to do. Part of me did not want Azon to grow up in a broken family. But at the same time, I felt that when I looked at my marriage, I did not know whether it's worth fighting for. And I did not know whether I could trust my ex-husband again. During the initial 6 months was really just me crying day and night. And after that, I hit a phase of toughening myself. So it really was like a roller coaster. Hit crying all the time. Then all of a sudden, I realized the things that I need to be doing. And I need to toughen myself. So I told myself that I'm capable even without a husband. There's this mindset of, I need to be a capable woman, a strong woman, a strong mother for my son. I started forbidding myself to be weak. I started, actually, within myself, I started feeding a lot of unhealthy narratives in my mind. And even though there were a lot of questions and emotions I was dealing with, I did not allow myself to wallow or process it healthily with someone or a professional help. So I kind of compartmentalized my grief and sorrow and suppressed everything in order to focus on the practical needs for me and my son. I went back into a full-time marketplace workforce because I needed the money to sustain our livelihood since my husband just went missing and we were actually not financially independent too. So on the outside, I would say that I started to portray this very strong front. So it went up again in a way where I started to portray a very strong front whenever I'm around Azon. I push myself to appear that I am okay, I have walked past that grieving stage and I have it all together. But actually on the inside, I hit hard into darkness. I started looking for other sorts of coping mechanisms and it wasn't known to anyone because I started falling into alcohol addiction. So actually during the first 10 months of this journey, it was really up and down. Even after my husband reappeared after 10 months, there were also new questions and new things to fight for because I was at a stage then to actually want to fight for reconciliation. I think by then, my heart was already so hardened and bitter. It was more on focusing on wanting to be there for Azon and wanting Azon to have a complete family, regardless of whether we have love within the family. So when my husband reappeared, he asked for a divorce. It also kind of hit me. I actually tried to fight for the salvation of our marriage, but it was again, I would say I love him, but I think at some percentage, it was more for because I did not want to be a single parent. I didn't want to deal with all of this alone. But nevertheless, despite trying to fight for it and pleading him to go marriage counseling with me and to actually work out the marriage. He refuses. So eventually we got a divorce. And the initial years of single parenting is on. I remember one of the thing that I would constantly strive to do for Azon, for my son, is that I would always want to give him the best in terms of material, like in terms of material things. And I felt that even though it is not even necessary sometimes, I believe I did it out of guilt and kind of like a state of pride maybe, because I feel that I needed to overcompensate Azon because I did not want to let him feel like he is in a disadvantage. And since he don't have a present father, to a certain extent, by doing the overcompensating, I actually make myself feel better also. And I actually felt that even till now, I came a long way to being a mother that I am today. And I am still learning in terms of like being a single mom. And I also believe that whether I am a single mom or a parent in a complete family unit, I believe throughout parenthood, we never stop learning new things about ourselves and our child, right? One of the rule of thumb that I have is that I just don't be too hard on myself.
Definitely. I totally agree with what you said, about the fact that we are on this constant learning journey, whether we are single parents or stay-home mom or co-parenting, right, in a complete family unit. I just want to thank you, Haze, for bringing us through that journey of ups and downs. It sounded like you had to really deal with a lot, right from the beginning of finding out about the infidelity, having your ex-husband reappear on the scene only to ask for a divorce. It really pains my heart, and I can feel the burden and the sorrow and the pain that you went through as well. And yet you also mentioned that you really wanted to put out a strong front for your son, and you didn't want him to feel like he was lacking in anything. That speaks to me of the kind of bravery and courage that you had as well. So just want to thank you, Haze, for bringing us through that very personal and vulnerable story. It is your lived story. I'm also just wondering, as we encounter many others around us who may be also single parents, whether it's single dad or single mom, what do you think are some helpful actions or even words from your friends or your family or your community around you?
I actually feel that it truly takes a village to raise a child. I think for myself, I have learned that not to be afraid to ask for help. And actually, when I show vulnerability, I realized that the people around me that loves me would know that I needed the love, even though I am the mom. And even though I can seem like I am strong, actually sometimes maybe all I need is no words, but just a hug and tell me that you know. I mean, I don't know whether I'm speaking for all the single parents, but I sometimes feel that action really speaks louder than words. And even though we can look at things like sometimes we coming from another side of the page where we want to reach out, but we overthink and we think about how actually practically I cannot help. So should I even reach out? I want to say that for the parents that are listening, or even like friends or community that are listening that knows that your friend or there's a single parent in the midst of you, don't be afraid to just give a simple text or just ask them out for a coffee. Despite the fact that if their kids are young and practically maybe they need to bring their kids and find somewhere. I mean, Singapore has many places that is kids friendly, right? And find somewhere that you think about it very practically and giving that person a space to talk. Or even if that person don't want to talk, she or he can sit there and you can help to just give a hug and just be quiet in that moment, in allowing the heart to be aligned and the heart to be felt. I feel that like sometimes we tend to overthink anything and we want to say things, but I truly feel that sometimes like just a simple gesture, we can feel and we can speak. It's not about overdoing anything.
Yeah, it sounds like even the small gestures and just being present for a friend or for a mom that you know who might need this support can really go a long way. And it doesn't require us to overthink, like you said. Also doesn't require us to plan a big project to say bring the family out. Just being there, doing the simple things, whether it's grocery runs or a meal. That sounds indeed like the most practical and yet meaningful thing to do. I'm also wondering, at times when it feels like you could be going through so much in terms of the emotional roller coaster that you mentioned earlier, even feelings of overwhelm. I wonder what helped you to actually open up and be vulnerable to your close friends and to your family, to your loved ones, to let them know that you actually needed their support and their presence.
For me, I remember that it was until I couldn't go on anymore. I mean, I wouldn't recommend for any single parents to do that. I think it would be good if the moment you identify that you yourself want to withdraw and be in isolation, I think it's a sign for you to realize that it's important to ask for help, regardless of whether it's your friends or family or professional help. For me, it was when I realized that I didn't want to go on with life anymore. And that's why I came back and I realized that I had to be intentional about surrounding myself with people that would hold me accountable for my actions and to really speak life into my life and just encourage me and see me for who I am, not what I do. I mean, in terms of emotional challenge wise, one of the biggest emotional challenge that I had was my identity. Not even my identity as a mother, but my identity as a woman. Because of my broken marriage, there was just a lot of self-condemnation within myself. And the thing is, because I did not want to admit that I was very prideful. And I think because I grew up in a family that all the women are very strong. I did not want to admit that I failed, and I started having a lot of very unhealthy narratives to myself on the outside. It's as though that I was living double life throughout the time before I decided to come clean with myself. So there were a lot of self-condemnation, and I think that is going to be very normal, especially for single moms, because of how the journey it is and the judgment and among your surroundings. But I would say really to talk about it, to not be afraid to talk about it, but of course not to people that would be unhealthy or toxic in your life, but really to find a positive community and just talk and be very honest and truthful, just so that you will not allow yourself to just wallow in self-pity, because that's very unhealthy, and just really allow people to speak life and the true identity that you have.
Thank you, Haze, for raising that. I think that's so powerful, how you actually were so honest with your own feelings. First, it is about being honest and open with yourself. And then perhaps the next step is to be honest and open with those you love and you know who are able to support you and whom you can trust. Yeah, I think that's a really valuable lesson there. Thanks for raising that. Earlier, you also mentioned that as women, perhaps it hits us even more hard because it's so easy for women to wrap our own identity and our own sense of worth around our family, around our relationships. In a sense, it is another status symbol. And I think that was so powerful how you raised that. Thank you so much, Haze. Yeah, for sharing that. And also for sharing your life stories with us and your experiences. Your sharing today, your story, is not just an encouragement to other single parents out there, but I think it can also help us as, just a community as well as family and friends to understand what are the unique challenges, what are the unique emotional experiences of a single parent. Before we bring this to a close and wrap up this podcast, I was wondering if you have any parting words or last words of advice for listeners out there as well.
I really want to call out to the audience that are listening, especially for the ones who just started this journey. I want you to know that you're not alone and you need to give yourself space and time. It may feel like you're alone, and it is okay to let whatever that is happening to settle and not rush yourself to move on. Because I think, especially with the fast-paced environment, we tend to want to push ourselves to move on faster, to not grieve for too long and things like that. But all of this takes time. And the most important thing I would say is not to give up, because your kid needs you, your children needs you, and you are the best parent that he or she could ever ask for. And if you need help for someone to be there for you, reach out to Focus on the Family Singapore, right? And I believe there will be team that will be glad to see how they can help and support. I mean, at the same time, if it resonates, if you could ever reach out to me, feel free to do so. And I will be very honored to pray and journey with you. And of course, as for the single parents who are already in this journey, I firstly want to say I'm sorry for what happened. And I'm sorry that if you feel unseen, especially if you are in a community that rave about the importance of a whole family unit. And sometimes in the midst, you feel overlooked and neglected. I want to say that I understand and that you're not alone. At the same time, remember that there are many people that loves you and really sees you, even though they don't say it. Most importantly, don't give up. I mean, for all the single parents and even parents, I want to say that you ought to be very proud of yourself for how far you have come along this journey and how far you have made it.
Thank you so much, Haze. Yeah, I feel so encouraged by your words as well. Thank you for spending your time with us. For more parenting resources for listeners out there, do remember to visit our website at family.org.sg, or you can also subscribe to our monthly newsletter at family.org.sg/subscribe. And that's all we have for today. We hope you have learned a thing or two about single parenthood today. And do feel free to share this episode to a friend who might benefit from the stories and tips shared by Haze as well. So remember to keep tuning in to ParentNet Podcast to learn and grow in your parenting journey.